what is up everyone? Pastor JAMZ here back with another review, and we're coming through with the latest album by Rosalia, MOTOMAMI. Sorry I missed the second upload for last week. I'm just getting stuff together, prepared for my graduation in the spring, which is coming in the next 2 months. So I do have a schedule lined up though that I'm really excited for some new albums that came out, and this was one of them. Rosalia, 28-year-old singer-songwriter from Spain. Although I'm not the biggest fan of Rosalia and her music. I do think she is quite interesting in the sense that people like Travis Scott take a liking to her, kind of brought her up more in the mainstream music industry than she was already doing with the waves of her previous two albums, Los Angeles in 2017 and her sophomore album El Mal Querer in 2018. So now we're in 2022. This new album MOTOMAMI came out. Just I was gonna give it a listen, see how I felt about it, and honestly, it was quite a journey. With 16 tracks and 42 minutes, I only heard two of the lead-up singles coming to this album, and honestly, I didn't even know that she was going to come out with an album, but it just popped up, and I thought it was, I'd give it a shot. The two singles were Saoko, which is, oddly enough, the first track off this album, and of course, the other single that I heard coming up to this album was La Fama with The Weeknd. And, Saoko, for the most part, not really the greatest start to the album, and not a really great track in general. Kind of a little repetitive and annoying, especially with just the way that she presents her auto-tune and stuff like that. La Fama was really good, and, great chemistry with The Weeknd, apart from the disastrous Blinding Lights remix that she did in 2020. And, I think that she kind of, with The Weeknd, given that this is their second song together, better than like the Blinding Lights remix, and he deals himself more of matching her tone more than she matches his tone, which I think is better, given that this is her album and he's the feature on here. Contrasting the two singles, I just think that this was better structured and better chemistry between the two, and he just matches the same energy as her instead of her doing the opposite, trying to outplay herself. And I think it's great that she doesn't do that in this track. Apart from that, I would say there are definitely some bangers on here, like the second track, Candy. It's probably my favorite track on here. It's just so amazing how she also incorporates autotune, and her vocalization. It's more synthetic and more stretchy, and the high notes are kind of more high pitched, which is fine and everything. But I like how she establishes more of a mellow, slower tone with a dreamy like beat, and the beat incorporates like these really awesome xylophone style instrumentals that she could really go above and beyond with, and kind of sets the tone, honestly, and throughout the album. But there are tracks on here also that are really fun and quirky, like the track Chicken Teriyaki. I think it's like I've mentioned before, not every single track on every single album has to have some deep meaning to them. It could be silly, it could be fun. I like when artists play with music and come up with these strange, weird ideas. That the Chicken Teriyaki, for the most part, is just a fun track that's kind of bombastic, keeps the energy flowing. Also, the track BIZCOCHITO, that's also a really fun one, which is really fast paced and kind of keeps the listener intrigued and wanting to listen to more and see what else she has to offer, because there was quite a few surprises on here, like those tracks that I'm mentioning. However, take that with a grain of salt, because there are also tracks on here, and it's unfortunate that it's the majority of tracks on here that are kind of missing and not really getting where she wants to be. She's not really executing these tracks as truly, like in my opinion, in her own vision. I feel like she had a different vision for some of these tracks, most of these tracks, I should say, and they're not really establishing herself. They're not really establishing her identity as an artist. This is her third album, and it's kind of difficult for me to say that I still think that she hasn't established her own identity in the music industry, and that's really bad given that this is her third album. Because what I mean by that is you'll have tracks on here where essentially she's setting herself up as vulnerable, like in the tracks Candy, La Fama, and Hentai. Uh, she really establishes herself as like a really vulnerable person, very sensitive, and wanting to love this person. And then you'll have other tracks on here like Diablo and Como Un G, where she is coming off as really hard and tough and not really uh, showing off her feelings, which is contradictory of the first half of the album, and then the second half of the album she's just contradicting her previous ideas, which really puzzles me. And honestly, my biggest challenge when listening to Motomami, just figuring out where she's coming from, what she's trying to establish herself as, and honestly, her identity. Like I really don't know what she's trying to convey and portray herself as. And I'm not saying necessarily as a person. What I'm saying is her thought process when writing this album. Just trying to figure out what exactly is she incorporating and what sort of messaging, if any message, throughout this whole album. Because for the most part, I mean, it's reggaeton. It's really nice Latin music, really nice sound, and just really awesome, like fun, creative songs that are scattered throughout the album and straightforward. However, as simple as they are, some of these tracks, like I said, are kind of a miss, and especially in some of the way that she executes the tracks. Um, there are tracks on here where the autotune is a bit too much and just kind of a little bit of a like a ear sore. And in some instances, especially when she hits the high notes, I think her autotune is way off. And but like I said, there's tracks on here that are really a few tracks on here, handful of them that are really good and definitely worth a listen. Honestly, this is a really fun project, and I really enjoyed this more than I thought I would when listening to it. But that's pretty much all I gotta say. If you're looking for mainstream reggaeton, especially from a female perspective and a female artist like Rosalia, this is definitely worth a listen. Maybe you'll enjoy it more than I did. But I'm giving it a decent 6. Motomami by Rosalia, her third album that came out, I believe, 2 weeks ago. Yes, it is a decent 6. And that is the review. Let me know what y'all think. Link will be in the description below if you want to check it out. Make sure you all share the video and subscribe and like. Thank you all for watching. Peace and stay safe.